Hello, everybody, and welcome to another installment of Aftermath Hours, the weekly podcast of Aftermath.site, a worker owned reader supported website about video games, the internet, and everything that comes after. Aftermath is for the moment fully reader supported, so if you like what you hear, you can subscribe on our website using the big subscribe button. And if you don't have a ton of money right now, but you still want to help out, we'd really appreciate it if you could review the show on Spotify, Apple, or wherever else you get your podcasts. I am Nathan Grayson, and today I am joined by Gita Jackson.
What's up? I'm Gita. Gita forever. Gita for always.
Exactly, Gita for life. And life is spelled with a Y. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah. And special guest, the director of Dosa Divas, Aka.
Hey, how y'all doing? Thanks for having me. Exciting
Yeah, of
times.
course.
It's an absolute delight to have
Mhm.
you. I love that you've made a video game that allows me to speak about video games with my Indian mother, who has no idea what I do and does not really understand it.
My
Wait,
Sri Lankan
how's
mother
she
has no idea
reacted?
what I do either.
Yeah,
Sorry, Nathan.
yeah, no, it's real. It's real shit. Or it's my grandmother, my amama. She used to tell me she was always so impressed that out of all the grandchildren, it was the daughter, the only daughter that had a 401k. But I would tell her about video games and she'd be like, "That's nice." And
Yeah.
I immediately change the topic.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so Aka's here today because he just released a game this week called Dosa Divas. It is a turn based RPG that is also about food and culture and a bunch of other very interesting things. And so, yeah, I guess just to begin, because, your studio's been around for a second now. You've made a couple of other games. And so, why did you decide that this was the next game you're going to make? What was the kind of genesis of this project?
So our last game was called Thirsty Suitors. It's a game about fighting your exes, disappointing your parents, South Asian culture, and actually mostly more, but immigrant culture more than anything else. But like, our team is all remote. There's like 14 of us, spread across from West Coast U.S. to Australia to China. A lot of immigrants on the team, and we talk a lot about sort of our shared experiences. So while we're working on Thirsty, Dosa was sort of an inkling of idea. I think I just had I have a board of ideas, so just throw ideas in there. And the thought was two aunties in a mech. Um, I didn't know what the hell that meant, but it just kind of seemed like something interesting to as a concept. So just kind of usually how I start is like have a dumb idea and is there something to it? And just kind of explore it. Ideas are real fragile, as you all know, in the beginning. So it's like I talk to other folks about it and pitch it, and then it just develops. Getting reference and what does it mean? Who are these two aunties? And at the time, we're like a story about two sisters that were a little older, the 30s and 40s than you typically see in protagonists in games. I think, especially for women characters. That was sort of the genesis of it. Just be able to kind of explore that space. And I wouldn't call it therapy, but we tend to explore family dynamics and generational trauma and uh, reconciliation as themes, and I think all three of our games. And I grew up I'm a first gen immigrant. I moved to the U.S. I moved to Maryland area when I was 8, and my parents, were all from Sri Lanka, and we have a pretty big family in that area. Everybody kind of immigrated from the 80s and 90s into one space, but we don't really talk about stuff. So I grew up like not really talking about feelings. Gita, I'm not sure if your experience was similar, but
Oh, brother. Yeah, my family history is like really specific and weird, but on top of I'm also first generation. My mother immigrated when she was like 7 years old, and she immigrated before the Asian Exclusion Act was repealed, essentially.
okay.
So there was like not really a diaspora culture for her to be a part of, and my grandfather, was an influential aeronautics engineer at the time, also really wanted the family to Americanize. So there's this like what I appreciate about your games like in general and Dosa in specific is that it is not just a narrow story of immigration or a narrow story of being in a diaspora. It is actually a story that wants to include so many different kinds of South Asian identities and experiences. It's like pluralizing of the ability and the identity of what it means to be a South Asian. I see as much stuff like that reminds me of like Heems and Das Racist in this game as I do stuff that reminds me of my elders and my relatives who are still living in India.
Yeah.
Um, and I often think about and talk about with my mother, why aren't there more kinds of stories that emerge from the South Asian diaspora? And in this game specifically, I do see like it is not trying to be a story of the old country, but more a story about where we are currently right now, how Indianness is positioned in culture. And specifically, it's about like how culture can be commodified, packaged, and sold, stripping it of its connection to the people itself and the community that has created it. But yeah, no, my mom, growing up, feelings were something she's only recently become comfortable discussing, and like a lot of it just has to do with the trauma of being removed from your homeland when you were like a little tiny baby and not really having a choice about that, and then the confusion of where do I fit in the world after that. But yeah, it's South Asian cultures are not necessarily known for their I will just say that black parenting and South Asian parenting have a lot in common in that you
Mm.
are told to shut the fuck up and study.
And and we have folks. Our producer Sunny, she's from South Africa, and then we have our programmer. She's grew up in Russia, and we like. There's a lot of similarities in like upbringing of immigrant parents that we found out during Thirsty, and then that's sort of the stuff we like to explore. I think too, just for it's just I think it's fascinating. But yeah, like the sort of the turmeric lattes of the world were the things that were kind of I see like there's a whole history yoga whatever, right? Like there's like
Yeah.
a whole history of this stuff. All that stuff's removed um and I don't know, sanitized
Mm.
for consumption without sort of like the historical aspects or the culture, the folks that made it. I this is something that I talk a lot with the team is like we people are willing to try new foods and new things and tastes and flavors, but they don't have the same love for the people that make it,
Mm.
or the same acceptance. It's like I don't quite understand that, and then I found that out as a kid, like bringing certain kind of foods that we cook at home. My parents cook
Hmm.
a lot, and
Yeah.
Mm.
so
Yeah. Even just like on a
like it's
basic level, like a lot of
yeah.
racists fucking love burritos.
Right?
Yeah.
Like,
Who made these burritos? They're so
Yeah.
oh,
tasty.
don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Or
Why don't we
like,
deport them? That would be neat.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's like a Gwen Stefani wearing a botu on the cover of Rolling Stone magazine, and like, am I mad at her for having an Indian boyfriend whose Indian family wants to dress her up in Indian clothing? Not necessarily. Should Rolling Stone understand that putting a white woman in these garments, like that is like stripping these garments of the context in which they came from, which is even in that case like just an Indian American family from like Orange County. Like
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's talking about Himanshu Suri and Das Races and Heems and his career without talking about Queens is also like a way of stripping that of its context. He writes from the perspective of a Indian American person that grew up in Queens, and that is indelibly a part of what his art is. And you do see in game development, I've heard from other non-white game developers that while larger companies may have an interest in telling these stories because they identified a part of the market share that they don't have an ability to enter. I talked a little bit with like Evan Narcissus about this when
mhm,
he wrote the Miles Morales expansion for Spider-Man. Like these companies aren't actually interested in the authentic expressions of that culture. They are mostly interested in shallowly showing you, look, we've made a game about a person from your culture. Will you please buy it? Please, please buy it. Please buy it.
yeah. I mean, that's growing up. I mean, I think there was this old movie called Short Circuit way back when, and my parents were so happy. They're like, "Wait, I think that's an Indian man in this movie." And it was like Fisher Stevens, in
Yeah.
brown face, right?
Yeah.
Like, but
Mhm.
with a terrible accent. But my parents were like, they were just like, we never see someone that looked like us on screen in a movie. We got to go see that. And I
Yeah.
didn't know it at the time either, but like later, I was like, oh, okay, I got it.
Yeah. No.
It's
And
obviously
now we
true.
have like Laura from Cat's Eye wearing bindi and like Indian clothes in interviews and like being visibly Indian in like this international Gap campaign, performing at Coachella wearing Indian clothing and Indian jewelry. And it's I mean, it feels in some ways though, like the focus on Indian culture in mainstream culture in America is also really disturbing because then you have to think about people like Usha Vance and like Ashwin Rodriguez from Wired just wrote a long article about conservative Indians in politics who went all in
Hmm.
on Trump, and there is this uncomfortability of like the spotlight also means like uh-oh, I'm in trouble. Like
Yeah.
I don't want people to know certain things, or I want these conversations to be interior to my culture, but also we are breaching containment in some
Yeah.
ways. Yeah.
And I think that's progress because I'm like, I used to be so excited about seeing other brown folks on screen or in games
Yeah.
or whatever. Now I'm like, fuck these dudes. Like,
Yeah.
I don't like where there's enough of us that I don't agree with your politics or your
Yeah. No, I
terrible
think that's so
behavior. I think
true.
that's progress.
Yeah, yeah, no, I think you're right. If there's enough brown people in a room for me to go, I fucking hate that guy. I think we've reached a better level of
Yes.
like saturation of brownness in the room.
Yeah. We're not monolithic, right? As a people or whatever, right?
But when it comes to, earlier you were talking about kind of the commodification of, foods and element of culture and stripping them of their context. When did you decide that that was a theme you wanted to explore specifically in Dosa Divas?
Yeah, I think for that, there's also sort of a bunch of other themes for us too. I mean, this where the game industry is going, where sort of a lot of the industries, public companies versus mom and pop and one-off shops and things where I think there was a time where public companies pretended to care about stuff other than money, and that's completely gone out the window, right? Like you see record profits and record layoffs, which
Mm-hmm.
it's not about and we can talk about AI stuff too, but like as we were developing Dosa, I was like, there's this idea of sort of commodity and food, but also that goes to other parts of the stuff we interact with and culture in general about sort of labor practices and how quarterly profits over anything else. So it just there was like kind of a lot bunchable themes that made sense for us to explore and made sense in this world as we're developing. I mean, with games, this it's like 2 years for us from start to finish. So generally, we have a general idea of themes and what we want to explore, and then we figure it out. It's really rough, and at the heart of it is a story about these two sisters and their younger sister who essentially bought the family restaurant and turned it into a fast food empire, and how they had a falling out. And the game is really revisiting that history that the player didn't get to see, and then exploring it and reconciling with it is. And then on sort of the world itself, we the commodification of things is where a lot of that comes in. So you get a sense of what the world is. It's a made up world, aside somewhat futuristic sci-fi world, and so we want to kind of establish the tone and where things are. And we have these different villages that you visit, and we use each village to showcase a different aspect of where the culture is, or where for Lena, who is your sister, who's taken over sort of this part of the world, demonstrate that in different ways in each town.
Yeah, how fun is it also that Lena's enemies that she sends after you, the rote JRPG enemies you grind are corporate goons. Like I just think
Yeah,
it's so fun.
we started with lawyers, and we get into Paul Blart Mall Cop was the reference for the
Yeah.
second.
I
We have,
forgot.
Wait, can you
and then
explain
like,
more about how
oh
Paul
yeah,
Paul
sure,
Blart
sure.
was a
So
reference here?
in the second town or second village you would visit, the first one it's like where she's trying to take over, so they're still kind of resisting. And the second town, it's like, oh no, this has been a labor camp for a while. So sort of the cops that or the cops or the security. There's some Brooklyn Nine-Nine short shorts references, but a lot of them are kind of on these robotic segues that is very much
Yeah, like
Paul
the
Blart
Chicago
inspired.
Segway cops. Yes. Oh my God, they look so dumb.
um,
Nothing dumber than a Segway cop.
and then
um,
we get into the sort of the resort town where it's like, oh no, this is post Lena takeover, and everything's fine, everything's high priced, and it's then we get into like tech bros and uh, weird tech desks with multiple screens that also
mm,
that you can attack with because they're I don't know. It just seemed right for us to
yeah.
explore tech
When you're
bros.
when you're making a game like this, how do you create a world that I guess feels topical? Because as you're describing, you're talking about a lot of
Yeah.
things that I think are relevant to the real world, even as you created a fantasy setting. But like make it feel topical without in the future kind of it potentially becoming dated or feeling like, oh yeah, it's harking back to something that already occurred and it's kind of like not really relevant anymore.
Yeah, I think the for us it's always about the specificity of things and things that we personally can, relate to. And I feel like if you're any fan of history or seen some of these cycles that have happened before or happening again, whether it's the anti-immigrant sentiment, we can go back to 1890s, 1850s in California, Pacific Northwest, Chinese immigration and railroads and anti-immigration, I mean anti-Asian sentiment past that. Like this stuff has happened forever, and so we kind of think about even though we're being more specific about the type of characters and worlds, the stories. I feel like there's relatability because human nature and how we deal with things we don't understand is always topical and relatable.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
So yeah,
also in the examples you mentioned, you're reaching across different times of history, like demonstrably,
yeah, yeah,
Paul Blart Mall Cop comes from a different era from from the archetype of the sleazy lawyer is very Gordon Gekko, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Or
yeah.
even like this is such a funny reference to draw, but uh what's his name's like lawyer friend in the Eternals movie is this like overweight Indian guy that's really sweaty, and it just
Oh,
reminded me of the
yeah, yeah,
like it's a kind of Indian cinema stereotype of a entertainment lawyer or entertainment manager that also fits in there. So these are all they become like a melange
yeah.
of and it feels more cohesive because you are not just addressing something that is so hyper current as the tech bro archetype, which is like also like a really Indian thing
It is. Yeah,
now.
Mm.
yeah. I think I should probably watch uh, Mall Cop. I've never seen it. I just remembered
Why don't you
the
watch it
trailers.
every day and
Yeah.
then record a podcast about it every day?
Um, something. So our friend of the show, Giovanni Colantonio from
Hmm.
Polygon,
Yes. Yeah,
has a whole
Gio.
thing going where I think it's like one of his friends, anytime that they mention, or actually, I think it's just anybody, if they mention Paul Blart around him, he has to go watch it. Like this is a running bet he keeps like in his life. He has seen Blart Mall Cop, which is incredibly hard to say, like 7 or 8 times,
Damn.
and the number keeps going up.
Gio, if you're listening right now, log the fuck off. Watch that movie. It's time.
I feel like I'm gonna watch it with him. Maybe the first time I watch it, I can watch it with
Yeah.
Gio.
Oh, I'm sure that you'll have so many insights that you'll be like, wow, I never would have noticed that. The depth of this movie is actually incredible.
It's a rich text, Paul Blart.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think yeah. To Gita, your point, like there's archetypes that we've seen in. We watch a lot of anime and old movies, new movies, and shows, and I feel like there's short form for different archetypes and or little twists on archetypes that keep coming back. Uh, Modern versions or not. I think the tech bro generally is just like it's I think it's like 30 40 years old even. It's just
Yeah,
from sort of the model minority of who was allowed to come to the US
yeah. Yeah,
to
I mean, my
uh
grandfather
yeah,
got fast tracked through immigration because Sputnik had just gone up and America wanted aeronautics engineers, and he was like an expert. So he got special dispensation from the government to come before the cap on Asian immigrants was lifted. So, like, you look at that and you look at the proliferation of South Asians in like Silicon Valley, like that's because of now what's become like a weird slur in conservative circles of the O-1 visa, which
yeah.
is for exceptional talents that are bringing their exceptional skill to America. And so you end up with Riz Ahmed playing a really pitch perfect tech bro in the Venom movie. And
I
it
saw that
feels,
one. Yeah.
yeah, I thought he really nailed it. I thought he really did. It was also just funny. It's Riz Ahmed. It was a Venom movie. But yeah, it feels truer because yeah, there are a lot of Indians who have completely stripped all intonation from their voice in order to seem and feel as cultureless as possible.
It's the
And it's,
connection to whiteness, right? They want to
yeah,
be like as they'll see us different if we talk and look and dress like them, and that's I'm sorry to tell you that doesn't work.
it's not gonna happen. It's what was his name who ran for president, conservative, and ran for president, is now in the Bush administration, and he had like the 10 commandments of my campaign, and one of them was God is real. And it's like, motherfucker, you are Hindu though, so what God are you talking about? Like,
Uh,
big questions here. It's proximity to whiteness is like really tempting because you just think you get proximity to power. But like you are going to be a stepping stone for other conservatives, especially white conservatives, to leap over you. And I like how in Dosa Divas you see Lena, a lot of her actions are motivated from loneliness, from missing her family, from feeling alienated and disconnected from them. In fact, Yomi, who you meet, who is like also her little underling, but also used to work at this family restaurant, she's also primarily motivated by the alienation she feels from these two sisters who are trying to make up for like young person mistakes, essentially being kind
yeah.
of an asshole or pushing people away when they need help, being too hard on someone that just needed a softer touch. And Yomi discards her culture because of that alienation she feels. She falls more in line with the evil corporation because she feels like the people who should be welcoming her are pushing her away. And loneliness becomes another motivator. But I really like, though, that the game demonstrates how food becomes a connector of people and ideas. And it literally fuels you. Very delicious in dungeon in some ways.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Nathan.
No, no, I was just laughing at the delicious and dungeon
Oh.
comparison because yeah, it does seem like anime is another theme that kind of suffuses all of this. That I'm guessing that you and other people at the studio are very into anime.
Very much so. I mean, yeah, a
What do
various
you
anime.
do any specific anime come to mind as ones that inspired this game? I mean,
I
obviously
mean,
mech
the
stuff is in there. Yeah.
the Naruto run, of course, with Mech. I'm a I'll rewatch Naruto and Shippuden every couple of years.
All of
With a
it.
filler guide. With a filler guide, I'll just
I was gonna
skip through
say because
things. Yeah.
that's an undertaking.
I know, but I just love it so much. I mean, Ava definitely with some as you get later into the stories of the mechs, because there's a theme of sort of sisterhood and reconciliation with Sam Amani and Lena and everybody else. But then the mechs also, they're like these ancient mechs that you get to learn about their relationships, and
Now
they're older than any of the writers. Yeah.
nobody's mom's soul is in any of these, right? No, that's not.
Someone's mom is in some of them, but not.
Oh,
Yeah, we'll see.
oh,
Oh.
Yeah.
okay, okay. Stealth sequel to the
I
re.
mean, when you start a project, there's like a bunch of other themes that we're going to explore. And then, like, as you start building it and you see how the story comes together, at that point, it's like, okay, the story, we know what direction it wants to go. We kind of want to go in that direction. And the endings change multiple times of how much we want to get into sort of the lore of the mechs and sort of the sister story. It's always like time to explore it. And especially in a game setting, having enough moments for the player to experience it themselves. Because I'm not a big fan of games that lore dump without the player getting to take part in it. So it's always our sort of goal is like if the player needs to be able to experience this firsthand to have a connection. Because it's like, you start a game and then your character's mother dies. And it's like, who gives a fuck? It's just like that's not my
Yeah, I don't know
character's
I
her.
don't.
mother.
I don't know her.
I don't know
Yeah.
them. I mean, you can do that in a movie,
Mhm.
Spoiler: Bambi's mom dies
Yeah.
in the beginning of
I
Bambi.
don't
But like,
believe you. Bambi's mom is too integral of a character to all the sequels and spin-offs. Not to mention the prequel series.
she never died. They're bringing her back. That's the new Bambi live action. She never died.
Really got
Everyone's
Gita.
here. Bambi's mom.
And Nemo's mom. I mean, mom's dying in movies. That's a thing.
It's just like
Like,
a
yeah,
narratively useful device to have a dead mom, more so than an alive mom. God of War made a great use of having a mom be dead.
yeah.
uh, it is mothers occupied this role that feels like well, my mother taught me everything. I mean, obviously, I only have one Indian parent. My dad is black, but my mother taught me everything about Indian culture. Like, she
Yeah.
taught me how to cook Indian culture. Her mother taught her everything about how to be an Indian person. The mothers are. I was talking about this with Megan Giant on Blue Sky,
Mm.
and it's she was we were talking about why there seem to be so many games about becoming a father and fatherhood, and not very many games about becoming a mother and motherhood.
Mm-hmm.
And what's interesting is that motherhood is positioned as like a connection to culture, a connection to family. That is the role of the mother to create the family. So narratively, like by removing that role, you introduce a problem for other characters to solve. How do I still remember who my family is and how I'm supposed to be a family without this figure? How do I make my way into the world without a mother figure to guide me? What I have found interesting though is that if you look in this like recent spate of like Asian American generational trauma narratives like Red, which I think is an adorable movie, and
It is.
K-pop
Yeah.
Demon Hunters, which is also really good. Red I loved because of the goth Desi girl. It's
Yeah.
so cute. I love her. But
And
yeah,
great
those
grandmas on that movie too.
yes, great
Great
grandmas in that
aunties.
movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's those are narratives about how mothers can really just fuck you up super bad and they need to stop doing that, which is like also really true.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
think in games, especially if you look at who gets to decide what the direction of the game is, that's also a big part of. There's a lot of dads who have kids for the first time. They're like, I got to make a game about having kids. It's so uh, enlightening, life
Mhm.
changing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a moment when we worked at Kotaku. I don't know if you remember this, Nathan, where our boss Steven announced that he was changing the name of the tag of the subblog Dad Taku to Parent Taku, and he was like, "It's sexist to call it Dad Taku," and I was like, "Steven, you're right, but the reason why it's sexist is because no women here have been able to work here long enough to have children.
Right.
So maybe there's other things you need to be thinking about."
Yeah. A new
Yeah.
coat of paint doesn't necessarily change that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but no, another topic I was curious about that you mentioned earlier is that the game is also to a degree about, um, game development and labor and the things surrounding that. And it occurs to me that, given that you said it took about 2 years to make, that you're basically making it right in that window where people became, I think, like general audiences became very aware of like all of the layoffs and everything like that. And, the kind of changing nature of games labor, and the even in some ways greater exploitation of it. And so watching that happen all around you while you were making this game, how did that kind of suffuse the game and maybe alter its themes or, change the way that you, I guess, viewed the world and the characters?
I mean, I've been in games long enough where I've seen this like multiple cycles of this, but like I think this feels bad in terms of like, yeah, the world's on fire, but their company's still making a lot of money, and then also having laid people off just feels not like the whole world like is having issues and everyone's kind of doing this. It just felt completely different. And we actually had we laid off 6 people in
Hmm.
October last year. Um, we had a project get canceled that was bringing in some funding to help to kind of extend our timeline, and then there was like this tax change that happened that affected small. I run a small, or small business in Washington State, and that just like completely fucked over like how we what we need to pay for taxes, and those two things together was like just decimated our budget for how much we had left. And we were funded through Outer Sloth, the folks that make Among Us, to their fund, and they've been amazing to work with. And we when you fund a project, whether it's a publisher or a fund like them, you kind of think about sort of uh, beginning of it. We're like, here's what we think it's going to cost. Like, I know what our costs are for the staff of 14 we have for a number of monthly to number of years. So I kind of budget that, and we know we were going to self-publish, so we were bringing in external like PR and marketing and QA teams and localization. So like we held that budgeted out with a rough idea. Um, but then when you have like these two major things that happen, Netflix canceled like I think 40 or 50 projects at the beginning of one of the years, and we were Thirsty Suitors mobile version was one of that, and then that was actually bringing us other revenue from that too.
Mm-hmm.
So like, and having to lay people off, which sucks, like really sucks. Like some of these folks have worked with us for years. We talked about it, and we tried to do as much as we can afford to do in terms of like severance
helping them find
and
like other work and
help,
stuff like
and
that.
then
I mean, how do you go about that? How do you know, because nobody likes to do layoffs, obviously. But there are some companies where it's a very soulless process. They're just like, all right, you don't have a job anymore. Bye. I'm guessing that, you as somebody who's trying to do better than that significantly. So it's like, okay, what are the many different ways that we can aid these people who we can't afford to keep on anymore?
Yeah, I mean, and that is like reaching out to other. I made a list of everybody, sent it to all the other sort of networks we're in Discords and Slack channels with other indie studios. Reached out to them, and so some of the folks were finding work, and some of them are actually starting their own thing, which I think is great. So we're talking about that, and like they're
Like
still
giving them advice and stuff, helping
yeah,
them
giving
out.
advice, and we're still like in contact, and they're like they're in our Discord and everything. So it's like we try to do it as humane as possible, but it still sucks for them. It's like a life change event, right? Like and so yeah, so that's going on, but before that, just seeing how difficult it is to find funding right now and to pitch things, and games either like blow up completely or completely get lost in the algorithms of the various stores. So it's just like yeah, like I'm not even sure how to go about making a game stand out. I think that's still like throwing stuff at a wall and seeing what works, seeing what sticks, seeing what doesn't, and that's definitely influencing of sort of the type of games we want to make. I think there's always going to be the themes that we want to explore. That's always going to happen, but it's like the high concepts and how do we talk about it and when do we talk about it? All that stuff's changing or has been changing, and we're trying to see that for our next set of projects.
Yeah.
Discoverability in indie games has been a huge problem for ages. I
Yeah.
know Nathan used to have a subblog on Kotaku called Steamed, where
Yeah.
you would
The
often
good old
discuss.
days.
It was a really good title for a blog, I have to say.
Yeah.
So I was
Steamed.
mad
Yeah.
the first time I saw it. I was like, God damn it. But that is like a perennial topic. I remember like the first time I heard indie devs talk about this was in the heyday of like Brainy Gamer and blogs, where people are
Man,
like,
there's a name I haven't heard in a second.
right? Like people were
Brainy
just
gamer.
talking about like Steam gets thousands of new titles every day, and it is just random chance often as to what gets picked up and what people see. Nathan, you just wrote this article about how Northern Lion is publishing a game
Mhm.
that became a hit because it's the kind of game that he would stream, and he streamed it.
Yeah.
And you often find yourself in a place like, well, even like in media, I often find myself in a place where I'm trying to write things where I know that specific people who have followings would like reading them and
Mhm.
hoping that those people will retweet them. Evan
Yeah.
Narcisse, mentioning him in this blog I wrote about the term unk. Part of it is because I love that dude, and he's really helped me out throughout the years. He's been a mentor to me. Part of it is also because Evan's going to retweet that blog. And
Yeah. Yeah.
that's good for me.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it changes a lot, and it's like especially social media. It's so splintered, and how much it's hard to measure if any of that has any impact, right? Like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Well, and like if
we get
people will, go beyond the networks they're in, like,
yeah,
you're asking somebody effectively to not just like watch your trailer or whatever, but to click out, go over to Steam or whichever other platform, and then spend money, which is of course a huge imposition for a lot of
Mhm.
people.
yeah,
And so it's all these little asks, and if at any point in that process you lose someone, you probably lost them forever. Yeah, it's really hard to do. With that in mind, I was wondering like how has week been so far? Are sales living up to what you were hoping for? Like what do you do from here?
Yeah, I mean, I it's weird launching anything and like when you I don't know. I guess I'll talk about in general because like and we'll get into specifics, but like for me, every time I've launched a project, there's like this kind of a postpartum depression that happens, and it's unavoidable. And I finally kind of understand it now. And I talked to new devs about it. I'm like, this is gonna happen. You're just gonna. It's because we spent like years focused on this project and all the choices we make. And once it's out, like I don't have a place to focus that energy, right? So you're just like going to like, what the fuck do I do now? Kind of a thing. And the way I've been doing it more is like we try to have multiple things happening. So we have like a couple of other prototypes, so I can like focus that energy somewhere else. But also like we came out Tuesday and there was like a bunch of other things that I didn't expect to happen on Steam. Like I think Warhammer had some big thing. I was like,
Oh,
really, of all days, or like those kind of things are. I don't know how to deal with that. So we're just like, still trying to reach out to people, making little videos and trying to get the word out. And for our kind of game, we don't want all your time, right? It's not a forever game. It's like I think the reviews are 10 to 15 hours, 10 to 13 hours,
Mhm.
and pricing a thing is always hard. I'm like, you can play Peak for $6 and you can play that forever with all your friends.
Mhm.
Or like, is someone willing to spend $20 on an indie RPG game? And we priced it at 19.99 USD with like 10% off. But so I'm really happy with what we did with the game and how we kind of expanded on the things that didn't work in Thirsty. Because I read everything, for good or bad. I think it's just like it's helpful to kind of, and there's some commonalities that come up in reviews, and but when we release something, it's up. Folks can say whatever the hell they want, and that's their
hmm
opinion, and that's okay. I don't have to agree with it, but that's a valid criticism is valid, right? So
Mhm.
and when there's enough common things that we get feedback on, we're like, oh, we should probably that seems like a real thing that enough people talk about it. We should address. So we're looking at reviews, we're looking at people playing, streaming, seeing what comes up, and we're kind of in the middle of think about our next patch and also how to get um, more people to know about the game because
Mhm.
sales wise, it's not like it's not in the top 10 of Steam or anything, right? Like it's
Mhm.
but I also feel like I don't know if we have hit enough people to know that's even out, right? Because there was so
Mhm.
Yeah.
much other things happening. So
The long tail is
the
like
long tail, yeah,
it's
Yeah.
the
yeah,
dream of basically any. I mean, it's a dream for a writer too to have a long
yeah,
tail to an
yeah,
article.
Yeah.
Chris Person who's listening right now is I think one of the heroes of understanding how to write something that has a long tail and that it can always be accessed again and provide new and helpful information to the reader. Um, in the hardware reviews he does is like they're often really perfect for that. Wrote about the screwdriver stripper. I don't know. I'm not a hardware guy. But but anyway, uh, it is like the
um,
dream. You want to have something that is more sustainable than instant success. Is
yeah.
something that is
Also, something that just
successful
like
for a long time.
something
Yeah.
something that lasts too. Like, I mean, I think
yeah,
that in this day and age on the internet, everything like something goes up, it goes live, people engage with it for a second, and then it gets swept away,
yeah,
by the tide of everything else, of algorithms, etc. And so to have anything that sort of, people remember years down the line, or that they recommend, or that, keep selling is like, that's uncommon now. That's incredibly uncommon. And so I was curious about that too. Like, did Thirsty Suitors have somewhat of a long tail? Did it kind of keep, selling over time? Did people keep engaging with it over time, talking about it, etc.?
yeah. It didn't sell that well for
Mm-hmm.
us, but there was a lot of engagement from folks that have like around it when people reach out. It's always like I still think about this game or I had and that's like for me that's the money's important, but money is just like not ever our goal, and we know we need it to keep people employed. And for us, can we make another one is really the most amount of sort of ambition I have as a studio. Like, can we make another one with the team we have? And that's always been the goal because we just like making games and hopefully saying interesting things with our games. And uh, I think with Thirsty and Dosa, I think Dosa seems like it's doing a little better for us in terms of like the gameplay is more engaging, and I think the themes might be a little more engaging too. I think for Thirsty, we had an identity problem of there's a lot. It was like a maximum. Is that the right term?
Mm.
Maximalist, maxim,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, I
maximalist.
think
whatever. Yeah.
South Asian culture is a maximalist culture. Like,
Yeah.
you've never met like an auntie that's willing to take off one piece of jewelry. You know, like that's just
Yeah.
not gonna happen.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the process, and I loved all the things we did with Thirsty. We were able to do, and Annapurna was a great partner at the time too. And I think it's just the time it came out was also rough for us too. And it's seems with the sales, it's still going, and people are um, like I think it feels like at the time the games we make, it doesn't really matter when it comes out. It feels like it's not like we're trying to target a specific time or
Yeah, you're not like
some
trying to beat
trend.
GTA 6.
No, and I I always like sort of telling stories and games about relatability, and I don't think it matters when people play it, but we hope people play it when it comes out and helps us fund our next thing. But yeah, we're gonna just keep pushing and try to get people to come by and play.
Yeah. I mean, especially in this day and age, with things being, I think, fairly precarious in the industry, with it being hard to find investment money, with publishers seeming to want, I think, more and more like games that are just mostly done that they can kind of grapple onto and,
Yeah.
make money off of. How do you sort of keep the lights on? How do you allow yourself to do the next one, to make another project?
Yeah, I mean, we start pitching fairly early, just out of necessity. Like before we ship, we'll have um, we've been doing 4 days a week for about 4 years,
Mm-hmm.
since I think beginning of Thirsty, which has been great. Which means I'm not like dead by the end of a project. I mean, that doesn't mean we don't. By I think the last month of this project and previous project, last 2 months, there's a lot more hours. Whether we're doing 5 days, and I'm doing a lot more because we work with external partners and make sure that we can respond to the QA teams and things like that. And we do our own ports. We release on everything at once, so that's like just keeping track of everybody. That does happen, but um, so to get ahead before we ship, like on Fridays, myself and my two co-founders, we will prototype new game ideas on the side and see if there's anything we can put together, and we pitch the team, and then I'll go out to like a Dice or GDC and start having conversations early with platforms or funds or publishers to kind of line up the next thing. So that's usually been our approach,
Mm-hmm.
because we know we can ship stuff. It's just a matter of can we get funding, or does a game do well enough where we don't have to? But I think for the platforms, we still like working with them because it's like getting their backing for an indie game in terms of like some kind of placement or some opportunity that helps to stand out, because it is so hard to kind of stand out as an indie project with so many games coming out. There's a lot of very talented studios out there, and the tools are easier, and we're just competing against everything else, from just social media to Netflix to streaming to whatever. There's only so much time people have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's so true. There's
Yeah.
I've been trying to squeeze in all the games that came out this week, and I'm like having a difficult time. I just started Tomodachi Life, and it's like difficult for me to decide whether I want to spend more time playing Tomodachi Life, whether I want to play a marathon or Nightreign with my friends, whether I want to finish playing Dosa Divas because I like talking to my mom about it,
Yeah.
and it's it's never like there's just so much you could do in a day, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
often just sitting on my couch paralyzed with fear.
Yeah.
So it's hard
Well,
to decide.
yeah. With a
Yeah.
game like Dosa Divas, how do you
Yeah.
make that argument to people like this is the thing that you should be doing, over all those other things?
Uh, I mean, we make short games, so on
Mm-hmm.
purpose. One of the reasons we're making like a Thirsty Suitors or Dosa Divas is like I've never finished a Persona game, and I know they're great, and I've tried. It's like 100 hours is not something I typically invest in a game. Rare exception, Elden Ring. I think I put 150 hours because I was obsessed with that game nonstop for 2 months.
Yeah,
But
it'll
most of the time, yeah.
That one got my hooks into me too, and it was like the only thing I played for like 2 months.
Yeah.
But not as many games are that sticky in my
Mhm.
brain as that one.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's most of the
Yeah.
time when I try a new game, it's like I give it like 2 days, and if you can't like latch into me in a way where I feel like I'm really motivated to finish this, I it's very easy for me to pick up another game. Because also I think I feel this way about starting books too.
Mhm.
The beginning of a game is so much fun when you're just discovering things, when
Yeah.
everything's new and the systems haven't quite revealed themselves to you, and you're like really excited for the possibilities. And
Mhm.
then you might get to a place where it's like, oh, these are the limits of what this game is going to be, and
Yeah.
that's less interesting for the most part. I just think.
Yeah. Wasn't there
Yeah.
like a stat, and I'm not sure how recent it is, but isn't there like a stat like 95% of players or something like that don't finish games? Like just
I'm sure that's
generally?
true because that's probably what my Steam library looks like
Yeah.
too. Um, I'm ADHD brain. I get scattered, so I'm like I forget the show I started that I'm supposed to be watching, or this game I started and finished watching. I like short experiences, so I think for us, we have a free demo on Steam. Like, hey, if you like this first hour and a half, and you can continue from that save file onto the full
Mhm.
game, then it's worth it. Like, um, we hope people will finish it, but I also understand like how again time is the constraint, and also things are expensive. Like, there's a lot of free things out there that can take up your time,
Mhm.
that you don't have to spend money on,
Yeah.
games
Well, and like
especially.
it's interesting to see because I think that a lot of people say that they want shorter games, but then they are met with the fact that yeah, games cost money, and they're like, well, I want to get the maximum amount of bang for my buck, so
Yeah.
maybe instead I'm going to save my money for something bigger, just because I'm worried that I'm not going to have money in the future to spend on things like this, and so like that's difficult because yeah, again, there's so many games that I haven't finished, and every time that somebody says this game is like 10 to 12, 10 to 15 hours, I'm like, thank God, the sweet spot. Like
Yeah.
that's what I'm looking for. Something like Resident Evil 4 length at maximum. And so like I wish that I guess the world more catered to that because I think that we would all be a little bit happier and saner if we weren't like making these decisions of okay, am I going to buy a shorter, smaller, more compact game or like a game that I need to play 100 hours of to justify the fact that I spent money on it.
Right. I
Yeah.
think buying anything in general, I feel like it's a emotional, um, purchasing is emotional. Like if you get enough excited about, enough of your friends are playing it, you don't really think
Mhm.
about the cost. You're like, oh, they're playing it. I just want to get it. This is what happens to me with every GTA. I'm like, fuck GTA. It's gonna be another one of these. But then there's so much coverage and share of experience. I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm missing out.
Mhm.
And that, so people complain about price, but I think there's like, if there's emotional hooks, or
Yeah.
enough your peer group or friend groups playing it, you don't really think about the price so much.
There's like a critical mass
Yeah.
that's something that I have definitely experienced. Like there's a Elden Ring roguelike like live service game, not a series of adjectives that I would have ever once given a shit about. Now I play that every week with my friends Nico and Tyler and Maddie, like literally every week, and I put so many more hours into that game. Steam gives me like a false number because for a long time I had this problem with Nightreign where it would just not quit out after I played, and so it would like think I was playing it for a week straight with no breaks, basically. Um, but yeah, it's there was like that tipping point where like Nico and Maddie played, or Nico and Tyler played it together, and Nico's in chat saying I have like
Yeah.
1,000 hours of Night Raid. Not true, but
Yeah.
According to your
uh,
Steam
yeah, exactly.
playtime, yeah.
I do have like over 1,000 hours in Dwarf Fortress, but that's because I would accidentally play it until the sun came up a couple of times, and that's not good for anybody. But yeah, there was like a critical mass where it's like, okay, well, if these two people that I know that are ball knowers, that they understand what I like about games and also understand what makes a FromSoft game good, they really like it. Then I just have to give it a shot. And that happened too with Marathon recently, where I saw a couple of specific critics who like the same things about shooters as I do say Marathon is really doing something for me. It was like Ethan Gack. It was Ethan Gack at Kotaku. Gatch. I have no
Gatch.
idea.
I think Gatch. Yeah.
Gatch,
Gotcha. Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Stupid made up name. Ethan. Ethan. He said he
Yeah.
was really fucking with it, and then I
Ethan,
was
if you're
like,
listening right now, your name is not real. You have a fake fucking name.
pick
Gita
a
says
new
so.
one. Less ambiguous consonants. God, there's a fucking plane
Yeah,
going off next to my house.
Yeah.
Sorry.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
Um,
fine. Don't
yeah,
they
I
don't
think
they know
it.
you're
Yeah.
podcasting? Jesus.
I should let
Find a
them
different
know.
airway or airspace.
Fly somewhere
Um,
else. You don't need to come
Yeah.
to New York. We got enough people here.
we really do. Um, but no, what y'all were talking about earlier did also bring to mind, like, the entire genre. And I hate this term, but it's just what people use, like friend slop, those sorts of
Hmm.
games.
Hmm.
And like how popular those games have become. Just because, yeah, I think that a lot of people have little friend groups that meet regularly and like play a game as a kind of pretense to just talk. And like it doesn't need to be a high friction game. It doesn't need to have a lot going on. It's more about just the social experience of, hey, we have this thing to do, a task at hand, but like we just want to stay in touch, have a nice little chat regularly.
And I love those games because it's like the antithesis of the gas games. Like you
Mm.
don't have to like devote months of your time, and then your friends can't catch up because they're at different levels and things. So it's just like you get in and out. There's no other commitment other than hitting play, right? Like it's so easy
Mhm.
to get into.
Yeah,
It's like, yeah.
I love
And
that too.
is that a kind of game that you would want to make in the future, or are you kind of more single player focused in your, I guess, like efforts?
We actually have a prototype right now where it's a
Mm.
five player game because we were learning to learn Godot,
Mhm.
and we're playtesting, and it's like, oh, this is kind of fun. We should just keep working on it. And it's a shorter term project. That's probably the next thing we work on, just as a almost like a palate cleanser for like we did 3 years on Thirsty and then 2 years on this, just having like
Mm.
a 6 month project to
Yeah.
to
I mean, I
to
think
learn
that's
something.
Yeah.
also the
Yeah.
genesis of Nightreign, right? Is like people on the team. I don't know why this became a Nightreign podcast,
Yeah.
but
Wait.
people.
I haven't even played it yet. I want to play it.
Dosa
Oh
Divas
my
Night
god.
Rain.
Oh my god, just Night Rain, please. Oh my god, that would rule. Just
Yeah.
I think of a if you were interested ever in doing like a Souls like game with that art style and with the sort of South Asian theming, I think that's a
Yeah.
great fucking idea because there's
Yeah.
so many gnarly pieces of folklore
Oh
and
yeah.
stories
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
could just ram in there. It'd be so fun. But also, I love like that is like play is a thing that you should enjoy. And
Hmm.
so games that come out of that spirit of playfulness, they often you can feel it when you play those. Like Peak feels like a game that people had fun making. So it
Yeah.
feels more fun to play it. I
Mm.
remember the first time in Peak when we got to the area, Nico, you'll remember this. We got to the
Yeah.
second biome, which has the bouncy mushrooms and wind that'll blow you off things. So we were bouncing, like looking at this beautiful vista and being like, wow, how amazing, it's so beautiful. And this gust of wind comes and just blows us all off into the forest and we all die. It's
I
great.
Oh
love
It's
that.
yeah.
like someone
Yeah.
had fun programming that. It was like, oh, this is gonna
Yeah.
rip some people up.
I
That's
think we were
game.
playing Super Battle Golf with the team this week, just
Oh yeah.
the other
Hell
day.
yeah.
And
It's a
then
great game.
Are We There Yet is getting attacked by bears and things in
Ugh,
your RV.
I
It's
love
really
that.
fun too.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, I think we are definitely there, and by there I mean
Oh my
at
god.
the mailbag, which it's time for.
Ooh,
4 out
tomato,
of 10
tomato, tomato,
transition. Four
tomato,
out of 10
tomato, tomato,
transition.
tomato.
Let's
Yeah,
go.
so the mailbag is a thing that we do every episode where readers can ask us questions. If you, the listener, would like to do that, you can do so by subscribing to Aftermath at our $10 tier. That will get you access to our Discord, which is where the mailbag lives. And then you can contribute questions and also just talk to a lot of people who are cool and nice and enjoy video games, but in a normal, chill way and not the way that the rest of the internet does, which is just terrifying. Um, all right. From Mechtroid. If Hideo Kojima were to start a Let's Play channel, which game would you be most interested in seeing him complete? That's a fun one.
Wow.
Was there a
That
username Mechtroid?
Yeah, everyone
I
has a
like it.
bunch of
I like it.
yeah,
I like it.
yeah.
yeah.
I
Mechtroid's a
okay.
regular.
Kojima, I would like him to play Cruelty Squad.
That'd be sick,
Yeah.
actually.
I think that that's the kind of freakitude that I would want to see him 100% complete.
Mhm.
Just I that or like something like Control, which is has a lot in common with his own games, but comes from a
Yeah.
highly different cultural perspective where those games are really uniquely Finnish and his games are really uniquely Japanese. And I'd love to
Mm.
see that cross-cultural exchange, that cross-cultural understanding. It sounds very interesting to me.
Yeah, I just like to listen to him and Sam Lake talk. I think that'd
Mm.
be fun.
Man, that would be fun. There is in Control a hidden room where you can listen to a meditation voiced by Hideo Kojima.
Oh, really?
And
Perfect.
yeah, I wandered into it by accident. And it is just like just a guided meditation voiced by Hideo Kojima, and I felt very relaxed afterward. It was nice.
I want to see him
Um,
play through his own games. Has he done that
that'd be fun.
Yeah.
on a stream? Just like
I
in Death
mean,
Stranding. I just
I would love
yeah.
like a director's commentary
Hmm.
on Death Stranding would be
Yeah.
so excellent.
I'm just a huge fan of how other folks talk about their games, and when they're like, anytime I can listen to a podcast, someone talk about making their game, but like also seeing them play it and comment on it, like I
Mhm.
love that. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd like to see him play Baby Steps, which, it's very similar to Death Stranding.
Yeah.
In a
Yeah. Yeah.
way,
Yeah.
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 All right, let's see. From Mish. What is your favorite food to cook for friends? Does it have a backstory?
Ooh.
Ooh.
I'll tell you what my husband does. My husband every Friday he makes for Shabbos dinner. He makes a incredible vegetarian chili that he has been working on
Mhm.
since the pandemic, and he's now reached a state in the recipe making that I think it's like a perfect food, and I look forward to because the Shabbos dinner is meant to be shared with friends and family. So it's really fun to bring people over and be like, this is David's famous chili recipe. Here you
Mhm.
go. But I personally, when I invite people over, the first thing I want to make for them is dal because it's just to me that is like home, like that, and I want people to feel at home when they're in my home. Um, and I also think anyone, if you have not had dal, it's the perfect food.
It
It's
is.
literally the perfect food, and you can put any vegetable in it, and it's perfect. And I love it.
I I'm the cook in the family, so I do a lot of cooking, and I've been trying to learn my mom's dishes over the years. And she never tells me the recipe, so I just watch, and she cooks by taste, right? A little bit of this, a little bit of that. Now I'm
Mhm.
like done it enough where I'm like I do that. So like my mom's curry chicken is like one of my favorite things to make, and one of the first things I'll make, and then like a red beet curry is another one of my favorites. So do that and some rice and some veggies, but like yeah,
Rice is
Yeah.
the
yeah.
perfect food.
Hmm.
I just feel
Um,
that way.
yeah. When
It
I
is.
first was learning to cook, I asked my mom for her chili recipe, and it was all just very approximate. She was like, "Oh yeah, I think I do this, and then maybe that, and
Yeah.
you can kind of like put whatever here." And I was
Yeah.
like, "That didn't help at all." And so then I like started using a pumpkin chili recipe from Trader Joe's, and that like it's very simple, but it fucking kills. One year I brought it to a Friendsgiving, and like again, this is not a high effort dish. It takes some time, but other than that, whatever.
Yeah.
And people were like, "Oh yeah, that's the best one, easy." Of like everything that people
Wow.
brought, and I was like,
I didn't
"Yeah, first
know.
try."
Didn't know you were a cook, dude. That rocks.
I
Dude, I
don't
want to
cook
try that.
enough. I should cook more, but I hate the process. I
Oh,
love the end
I love.
result,
Uh,
and I like when you get to the point when you can taste test because that I'm
No,
also just like
I th-
I'll know it when
yeah.
it's there. I'm like, no,
I'm
no,
the kind
no,
of
yes.
person that refuses to make shortcuts on like really complex dishes because I like the
Hmm.
process too much. Like
Mhm.
if I was really being really for real, if I had enough money that I could do this and not worry about working, I would be like grinding my own herbs in a mortar and pestle because I just love I love awakening everything into its full
Uh,
flavor. It's just so much fun.
I wish I could roast my curry powder. Like
Oh my
it's
god.
like a
Yeah.
thing you do in backyards and homes, and we got in Sri Lanka and
Yeah.
places. But it's just like it's such a great aroma. But I know my neighbors probably wouldn't appreciate it so much. But
Look, son, if they
um,
can't handle a stinky lunchbox, they're not gonna be able to handle that shit. Like,
I think for me, cooking is like because of as y'all do work from home. I'm sitting in front of a computer all day. When I stand up and go to the kitchen and doing something physical versus the screen, like just
Mhm.
the act of doing that, it's like it's a good way to kind of to start or end the workday, but also
Hmm.
I feel like I'm physically able to do something different with my hands, and it feels good just to be able to do that, and then have people eat it afterwards. Just it's a good
Mhm.
feeling.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
All right. From Mystic Eddie T. What are your earliest memories of being exposed to thoughtful games criticism that helped you learn how to think about games more critically as someone who writes about them, or just be more considerate of them as an art form in your own life?
Maddie Myers' really long first person article about going to fighting game community dailies in or weeklies, I guess they're called, in Boston, Massachusetts, and how alienated she felt from the scene because she was always the only girl. And she got harassed a lot for this article, unsurprisingly. She wrote it for the Boston Phoenix, and I like don't even know if you could read it anymore. But I had just met her in person like 2 days ago, and then I like Googled
Mm,
her, and I
mm,
read this article, and I was like, I didn't know that this was a way that you could write about this topic. And like from there, we became fast friends. We met at Kineticon, which is Connecticut's local anime convention, and yeah, we've been friends ever since. And she was one of the first people to get me a writing gig, also. So that
mm.
rules.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Lee Alexander's work
Damn
early
it.
Oh
That's what I was
yeah.
going to
on.
say. How dare
She's
you stole my
she's the
answer?
goat. She's so
Sorry.
goated though.
Yeah.
Like
It's
she just
fine. It's
writes
fine.
in a way that makes you jealous because she's
Yeah.
so funny and her wit is just so
Yeah.
razor sharp.
I mean, she was just like very willing to talk about games from like perspectives that you just didn't hear
Yeah.
normally in terms of like what they were
Yeah.
trying to explore, narrative,
Yeah.
unearthing a lot of older, like underappreciated games. Yeah, no, I remember like when I was first getting started, she was like the person I viewed as like a capital C critic. And so at my first GDC, like she was there in the press room, and I was like, "Oh my God, that's Lee Alexander!" And like I went, like I mustered all of my courage to introduce myself. I was like, "Oh my God, I'm such a big fan!" Like
Oh my
one of the
god.
first
That's
times that
so
I had been
cute.
like actually starstruck in my
Yeah.
That's
life.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's like
Ca-
nice. You
Oh yeah, she's
know?
super
really
nice.
nice. Yeah. And
Yeah.
Kara's work on
Yeah, Corey
Eurogamer back in the day,
Ellison.
I
Oh
think.
yeah.
Yeah.
Kara Ellison. There was
Yeah.
Full Throttle is the game that is like pivotal to me because that's the game I realized that I'm like, oh, I want to make games. Like, oh, there's people that make these things, and she did
Mhm.
a whole. I think it's one of her favorite games too. She did a whole talk about like Maureen and having a character in a game that feels like a real woman, not a
Mhm.
like just a attachment to the male character. And I always remember that article and also talking about one of my favorite games. Um, yeah, good work.
Yeah.
Mhm. Let's see. From Treethan. The Pope's favorite movies are It's a Wonderful Life, The Sound of Music, Ordinary People, and Life is Beautiful. What are your opinions on this top four list, and should Pope Leo have a letterboxd?
Unsurprising that the Catholic Pope likes a movie like Life is Beautiful, which is deeply anti-Semitic, but
Haha.
it's that's fine. Really good picks otherwise. It's a Wonderful
Mm.
Life. Watch that every year on Christmas Eve. It's a beautiful fucking movie.
No Chicago movies, no planes, trains, and
Right?
I
automobiles.
know, right?
Like,
Come
come
on.
on, Pope,
Yeah, he's the Chicago Pope. What is he doing?
represent. Yeah,
Yeah, he's already forgotten where he's from. He's like, oh yeah,
Uh
no,
too
I'm
big,
from
yeah,
Pope
he's gotten
University now.
he's sold out to the
Yeah,
papacy.
just
yeah,
like
man,
that. Yeah,
I like the Pope's older work. I prefer the Pope's first album.
I was into him before he became Pope. Yeah, so
Yeah,
much better.
yeah.
When he was just some guy.
Yeah, he was cool when he was doing mission work in South America, but now that
Yeah,
he's
that's
Pope,
when I was into him,
Yeah,
but not now. He's
yeah.
just sold
yeah, that
out.
shit slapped. His mission
Too
work,
big.
peak.
uh,
um, all right, let's see. From Non and Row, are there any topics you are interested in writing about in the near future? No, I'm done writing forever. I quit. Um,
Yeah, apparently you're about to melt. How hot is your apartment, dude?
oh wait, am I? No, I'm
Yeah,
just a little. Oh yeah, I guess I'm a little bit
you're
sweaty.
schwitzing. You're
no,
schwitzing a little
he
bit.
oils
Yeah.
up. I saw earlier when before
Oh,
we
I see.
started.
Of course, yeah. There's some all important
um,
facial muscles to oil.
oh yeah. Um, but yeah, no. I've been thinking about it this week because of all the clavicular stuff. I think
Oh,
that I finally
yeah.
need to dig into the like clip farming industry.
Oh, brother, yeah, you do.
Because nobody
Yeah,
has like really done a piece on the economics of it and like why there's the sudden proliferation of clips of everybody.
yeah,
And like it's because people are getting paid. It is because there are people whose entire day job it is to just go take clips of various streamers and surface them to different platforms. There's companies behind it. You can like go apply for, it's a super low paying job, but it's money. And so like just revealing how all of that works and why things are the way they are now on that front I think it would be very interesting. It will also take a lot of time,
Yeah.
and will not be super fun necessarily. But I think it's one that needs to get out there. I wouldn't be surprised if someone else beats me to it, but I'm definitely interested in it.
Yeah, it's
I'm gonna
Slashy
do it right
101 in
now.
chat. Yeah, you can do it to Aika right now.
Please.
Slashy 101 in chat just said pay-per-view got a new meaning. It's like, yeah, that's very true though. Like
Yeah.
it's very, very true that I think in the Manosphere documentary from Louis Theroux gets
Mhm.
into that like a little bit, but he just explains why the incentivization for clip makers is there,
Mhm.
not so much that there are actually money-making companies
Yeah.
that generate the desire for people to make this kind of content.
Hmm.
One thing I was
Yeah.
thinking about for this week, we have a couple of people on vacation this week, which is great, but it means that I'm writing a lot more, which is
Yeah.
causing me severe anxiety for some reason. I don't know. But I was thinking about writing about watching Trent Reznor's Coachella set and just thinking about this is a guy who went on a long hiatus from music because he was recovering from addiction. He
Mm.
came back and like it got him took him a couple albums to get his feet back under him a little bit. But now he is like up on stage with his wife
Mm.
singing his own songs recontextualized with new collaborators that he clearly loves working with, and it's so inspiring as someone who's also in recovery from alcohol addiction to see like this is the light at the end of the tunnel. You could be taking your beautiful wife and beautiful children to Cat's Eye at Coachella.
Yeah.
I was also thinking about writing about the situation with Merritt from, or not Merritt, Merritt Manon is her Instagram handle, but Manon from
Mm.
Cat's Eye, who is in this ambiguous limbo situation. There were pictures of her at Coachella where the band that she's supposed to be in is performing. And
Oh.
I do think there is like something that really makes me relate to her, and that feeling of like the black girl is always the one that gets left out.
Hmm.
The black girl is always the one that gets to look on from afar while other people get to celebrate the accomplishments that you want. There's something there, and I'll think about it. But my heart goes out to that girl. She's been through a lot.
Yeah. Eka, if you had to write something about games, like an article, what would you write?
I would talk about, I think, the economics of games and the power dynamics and how indies need to talk, like reach out to people.
Hmm.
All of us are most of us are very nice, and we would happy to talk terms and deals before you sign anything. Like, there's a whole community of folks that want to help you. Like, we don't, I don't feel like I'm in competition with other indies.
Hmm.
Like, it's a, like, I think that's something that's kept me going over the years. People that have helped me out to when we started our studio, and like, how do I do this? And I still talk to a bunch of those folks, and it's something I do in my spare time. But the thing I ask when I do help somebody is like, hey, just pass it on to somebody else that could also use it. And so I'd love to just say there's like an article about like there is a community. It's ever changing and growing, but like don't be afraid to reach out. Like,
Hmm.
It's so
yeah,
true.
it's
I
yeah,
mean, we do the same thing in Aftermath,
yeah,
right? I don't feel in competition with other indie sites at all. I literally want all of us to succeed
yeah,
because
yeah.
I think we're all doing
Rising
great shit.
tide. Rising tide.
Rising
Rising
Boats.
tide.
tide.
Boats.
Let's
Boats.
go.
Let those fucking
Let's
boats
boots.
go.
All right. Last question from Jack. Do you like talking about delicious food when you are hungry?
Oh my god. I
I,
mean,
I
I think it's so
it
fun, but what
works.
were you gonna say, Nathan?
I would say like up to a point.
Okay, fair.
It's enjoyable to do, but then if you realize that there's not any food for you on the near horizon,
Wow,
then you're
yeah.
like, okay, this is deeply frustrating. Like I want to eat
Yeah,
as
yeah.
soon as possible.
Yeah, yeah. I think you've hit the nail on the head because when I was playing Dosa Divas and
Mhm.
looking at all the different illustrations
Mm-hmm.
of beautiful dosa, you like I could like smell it, and I was
Mhm.
thinking about it, and I kept thinking about how I was gonna write the descriptions of dosa in the article I was gonna blog. And then I realized that dinner was not going to be ready for like another hour, and I got like
Mhm.
kind of mad. So I was like,
Oh
but
man.
there's no dosa for me.
You just
Yeah, I
unlocked a
mean,
core memory for me,
uh,
which was like in grade school. I remember like, period before lunch when you're hungriest but you can't
Mhm.
eat yet.
Mhm.
Reading the Redwall books, which have these
Oh god,
incredible descriptions of food in
they're
them,
so good.
and being like, I'm gonna lose my fucking mind. I'm going to go insane. I'm going to eat this page.
When we're playtesting, before lunch, we're like, "Fuck, why do we make this game? Like, there's all this delicious food." I'm like, "I just want stuff right now." Same
Hmm.
thing. It sucks. Yeah, like to a certain extent, but like, yeah, it's hard because you're thinking about having that, and again, I can't have it right now. So
Hmm.
I'm thinking about Dragon's Dogma 2 where they actually just grilled the meat.
Man,
Next game, just do
that
FMV
cutscene,
portions of just really
yeah,
cooking the food.
yeah, and it looks so good. It's
looks so
Yeah,
good.
crazy.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it really does.
Um, that or the bread in Monster Hunter,
Oh
which is
yes.
actually like in engine. They made it look so fluffy, like it's crazy. That looks better than real bread. I'm
It
like,
does.
I want to. If there is a heaven, I hope they have that bread there. It's like
Wow.
lightly polygonal, but like it's still you can actually eat it. I'd be like, yeah, okay, I need
I don't
this.
know if it was that game, or one of them had a bread cutting, and I was like, "This cutting looks so good."
Yes.
Like
It's
maybe it
so
was a Final Fantasy. I don't remember which one it is, but
it's
like,
just
yeah,
trying to imagine getting the knife in there and not showing that it's clipping, but showing that it's
Right.
slicing.
yeah,
That
yeah, yeah.
is so precise. It might have been Final Fantasy 15 where they had all the
Mm-hmm.
little cooking mini games and little meals
Yeah,
where everything it didn't feel like video game cooking. It felt like ingredients were actually being prepared, you know?
Yeah.
yeah. And I remember
Also,
looking at it. Yeah, it was like,
I just thought of
this is a lot of work. Yeah,
I just
sorry.
thought of a joke that you're gonna hate, Gita.
Oh my god, can't wait to hate
Call
it.
it an experimental hip hop act. The way it's clipping.
I'm going to kill you. Sorry. Please, clipping, get the fuck out of here.
On that
Uh,
note, I think it's time to end the show. Aka, where can people find you?
well, I would say Blue Sky, but that's I think it's on fire right now. But
Yeah, shit don't be working. No.
yeah, I mean, Dosa Divas, Google that or find her wish list or buy it on Steam or all the consoles. On Blue Sky, Ekanaut, Ekanaut, or Outer Loop Games. And yeah, that's all our platforms. I think YouTube, Blue Sky, Instagram, and TikTok. Yeah, no more
All
Twitter.
right.
Sorry.
Yeah. And yeah, so this has been Aftermath Hours, the weekly podcast of Aftermath. We are a website, which you can find at aftermath.site. If you like what you heard today, you can subscribe again over on the website. We have multiple tiers. There's all kinds of fun little perks and bonuses. Really appreciate it if you could do that. We record the show every Thursday on live on Twitch at 4 p.m. Eastern time, and we will be back. We will be back again next week to do it once more. But until then, have a good one.